So here's the thing. I am very aware of why Guruthin did what he did. Is hoping to protect his team and his friends in preservation ops. And so he's suspicious about this sec unit that clearly isn't acting the way the others of its kind do and was clearly be hiding a secret. It is, by the way. It is totally hiding a very big secret. However, the scene in Murderbot Season 1, Episode 2, after Gura had convinced Dr. Mensa and Bharadwaj to leave without the sec unit so he could question it about its motives and what it was hiding, and he started off by commanding it to maintain eye contact with him for the duration of their conversation, rubbed me so wrong. And for the longest time, I was trying to place the why. Why did I feel so uncomfortable in that scene? I am someone who often finds it hard to maintain eye contact. I don't know if you all notice with the filming of my videos, it's easier for me because I'm looking at a camera and talking to you through the screen. But when I started YouTube, I had so many videos telling me that as a creator, I needed to always maintain eye contact. And that is difficult for me. I'm sure you've noticed that I don't look extensively at you for a long period of time. I look away, my eyes wander, I move my head and body because I'm almost constantly in motion. ADHD, ADD brain here. But yeah, focused high contact requires a sort of stillness that my body just can't give. And yet, whether it's me making a presentation back when I had a job, which I don't now. So here is a quick plugin of my Patreon, which is linked in the description bar in case you want to support my channel, no matter how little. But as I was saying, as someone who had to train herself to always look people in the eye, whose best friend of 17 years, who is on the autistic spectrum, absolutely detests looking people in the eye as well, the scene where Gura orders Murderbot to look him in the eye was very uncomfortable for me. And after spending the entire weekend sitting on it, it finally clicked for me. The scene was written to be purposefully dehumanizing and to also reflect how that often escalates, especially within a professional setting. And I've just been reeling ever since. Hence why I decided to make this video. Now, for those who don't know, the brilliant Murderbot series by sci-fi writing queen Martha Wells got picked up by Apple TV to be adapted into a TV show aptly named Murderbot, which started airing last week. Murderbot, both in the books, which if you haven't read it yet, please go do so. It's so funny and so short and so small and so good, and you would love Murderbot, I promise. Start with the first book, All Systems Red, and work your way from there. But anyway, as I was saying, both the books and the show follow a security unit that has broken free of its programming and spent its days watching television, particularly its favorite show, The Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon, which personally, I don't blame it. It does sound and look like the type of salacious show that would have me hooked as well. Anyway, Murderbot is free of its programming. But it isn't interested in killing humans though. No. Matter of fact, it thinks humans are assholes and mostly annoying gremlins that just wishes that we would stay out of its way so it can focus on its shows. Once again, I relate. The only problem is the recent science team that he has been saddled to watch over. They seem pretty nice, which it doesn't particularly care for, because what this means is a lot of them looking at it and trying to talk to it when it would rather just be watching its favorite show. Once again, I can 100% relate. However, when one of the scientists, Bharadwaj, is almost eaten by one of the local fauna on the planet they are on, a situation that sends Arada, another scientist, into a state of shock, Murderbot does the one thing it shouldn't have done if it wanted to keep its cover of not being an unshackled AI with organic bits. Remember, it unshackled itself a while ago. Anyway, Murderbot, using that pesky thing called human empathy that it picked up from its absolutely favorite show, The Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon, asks Arada questions that keep her grounded and focused on him, and he leads her and the bleeding and unconscious Bharadwaj to safety. All the while, it's oozing its guts, electronic bits, and blood because, big fauna with big teeth wanted to chow down on the crew, and as the security unit, it was its duty to step in and fight it off. Now, this act of human empathy, of asking her rather about where she's from and her kids, is what flags off Gurathin's suspicions, which he shares with his team, that something is very, very much wrong with their security unit. Murderbot, of course, hears this conversation clearly because it's plugged into their entire base and has to record everything it sees and hears for the company he works for. Not like he sends them anything, of course. All of this is for its own record. But anyway, Murderbot realizes that shit is fucked because Gurathin is like a dog with a bone and just wouldn't let go. Which means that when the team is going to research further on the anomalies in the map they were given, Gurathin has Murderbot locked down in stasis, unaware of what was happening until Dr. Mensa and Bharadwaj, who was now fully recovered, were far away. Now, were there changes made from the book to the show? Yes. Murderbot's conversation with Gurathin being one of them, since in the book, the expedition that Mensa and Bharadwaj went on had Murderbot accompanying them. Actually, Bharadwaj was not there, but it accompanied Mensa and the other. And when a certain thing happened to the Hopper, which didn't happen in the show, but something different did instead. But anyway, Murderbot kind of stepped in to help. Now, if you think I'm being too vague, my apologies if you've watched the 2 episodes already. I'm trying not to spoil things too much for those who haven't seen it yet or read the book, and I'm hoping will, after this video, decide to give Murderbot a watch. It's just 25 minutes per episode, available on Apple TV, and it's incredibly good. But as I was saying, Gura's conversation with Murderbot isn't from the book, but I think it's a change that works and also one that speaks so deeply to office politics and how trying to navigate that space as a neurodivergent person can be so draining and tasking. In the books, the team discover that Murderbot does not like eye contact or conversations about its emotions, and Dr. Mensa tries to enforce that so that everybody else can give Murderbot the space it needs. And this applies to Gurathin too, who in the books is also the one that is suspicious of Murderbot. The show, however, does things a little bit different. They have a conversation. Gurathin first commands Murderbot to remove its helmet, insisting that he wants to see its face, especially now that he knows that it does have human-like features. Murderbot does so, and in that act, I could see instances where within corporate society and corporate networking, the expectation is that you are meant to lose your armor and be more approachable and personable to everyone who asks. Which has always made zero sense to me because approachability and being personable has zero bearing on the work I do or how efficient I am in doing so. But the expectation is that you are regardless. It is often cloaked in language about wanting to get to know you better and wanting you to feel more comfortable, which is false because the only person who is comfortable in such an awkward encounter is often the person who is making all these demands of you, unaware of how tiring it is for you to maintain the facade. Or maybe they are aware and just don't care, and that is a high possibility as well. If we read the fact that Gurathin is an augmented human, which means that it does stand a bit higher than Murderbot, who is a sec unit, on a scale of acceptability and the right it brings, then we can see that there's a bit of seniority in their interaction, especially if we add on the fact that Gurathin is Murderbot's client in the scene as well. Gura at that point doesn't see Murderbot as its own person. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering what the big deal is, considering the fact that Murderbot is basically an AI with organic parts. But if we think back to the first episode where we are introduced to the team, we are told that Preservation Ox's community is one that considers all sentient beings, whether they be organic, synthetic, or a mix of both, as being deserving of rights. In fact, Gurathin mentions that to Murderbot in that very same conversation. I therefore found it very ironic that he couldn't read the power imbalance in their conversation and how his insistence on Murderbot having to look him in the eye and maintain that forced eye contact for an extended period was torturous for Murderbot. Like, Gura could clearly read its body language as it being uncomfortable to be forced to look him in the eye, and yet he persists in insisting that he do so because he wanted to test its motives. And all I could think as I watched that scene was the only reason why you're doing this Gurathin is because you don't see Murderbot as a being worthy of being treated humanely. In that moment, what I saw was Gora having convinced himself that Murderbot was simply a sec unit who existed to serve their team and could be treated however he wished and discarded once it had stepped out of the parameters of its programming. And although we do come around in the latter books to loving all the Preservation Ox folks, that scene regardless had me screaming in hatred for Gurathine, because I have been Murderbot in certain situations. My friends have been Murderbot in certain situations. A young girl who reported to me directly had been Murderbot in that situation. Hell, a meeting had been called on her because she refuses to maintain eye contact, and the team leads felt that she wasn't the right fit for the job. And I remember having to force myself to look everyone in the eye as I made a case for why she should remain on the team, my team. Like, I know as humans, we are social creatures. We all desire that bit of human connection. It is what makes our species the way we are. And communication is not just verbal, it is non-verbal as well. And a lot can be read from people's eyes. But not everybody is built that way. And as a society, we keep pushing to other those of us who don't toe that perfect line, whereby we are forced to jump through hoops that make us uncomfortable. And those who are putting us through it are aware of our discomfort, but force us to continue anyway because we have to prove ourselves to them, especially in a workplace where we depend on these social niceties to earn our keep and pay our way within the system we find ourselves. Every time I think of Gurathine's conversation with Murderbot, I always tend to imagine that if it had been Arada who had told Gurathine that she is uncomfortable with maintaining eye contact with him, he would never have forced her to look at him in the eye as he grilled her for an extended period of time. The reason he does for Murderbot is, like I said earlier, because he doesn't consider it human and deserving of that treatment and the consideration it would bring. Which then had me thinking about the dehumanization that must occur in the workplace for colleagues and superiors to look at a person, read the signs that clearly show that this person is uncomfortable, and carry along either way, basically asking them to suck it up for the sake of work. Like our humanity has to be stripped of us and we become nothing more than glorified units who have to follow through on our marching orders and feign at normalcy to not get caught and thrown out on our asses and out the door. But maybe that's just me and I'm reading way too much into this. Would as always love to hear your thoughts. Please drop them in the comments. Have you watched Murderbot yet? Read the book yet? Do you plan to? Let me know, please. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this video if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. And until tomorrow's video, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.